When crunch time happens, I think the first thing is you always just think customer first, right? So good example is production incident. That is a drop everything you're doing, doesn't matter, go fix the problem. Sometimes, if it's a downtime type incident, of course, that's all hands on deck, fix it, get it running. It often doesn't end there, right? There's often follow-ups and other things you have to fix and understand. And, I think everything else takes a back seat.
Welcome back to the Information Week podcast. I'm your host, Senior Editor Zhao Pierre Ruth. In today's episode, we are looking at coordinating crunch time across the company. Everyone these days is working faster to deliver, but what happens if the teams are focusing in different directions, all trying to accomplish different tasks, but you're all really necessary to be all hands-on to deliver maybe one or multiple deliverables for the organization? So for this discussion today, we are joined by Ken Ringdahl, the CTO of Emburse.
Hi, yeah, pleasure to be here.
And we're also joined by Larissa Schneider, COO and co-founder of Unframe AI. Larissa, Ken, both of you, thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, great. All right, so crunch time, it is not something that is desired by anyone because it speaks to potentially issues of how things were managed, and hopefully we'll also speak to some ways to try and avoid those kinds of things in the future. But if there is crunch time, if there are moments when teams have to just kind of come together and put in additional hours or do multiple things that they might not have normally done, Ken, from a CTO perspective, how do you determine the priorities for the development teams in these kinds of situations? What happens if there are resources that have already been launched that are out there that exist that urgently require additional support, but now there are other elements, new software, new apps, new products that also need to be delivered on for the organization's health?
Yeah, this is it's kind of almost an everyday reality in one way or another. Of course, you always want things to be smooth and on track and on time, but the reality is we're constantly making adjustments. I think the first thing, from my perspective, is always understanding the business. I think as a CTO, it's my job. I don't live in a vacuum. I don't make independent decisions in terms of business priorities. That's sort of a team effort. But it is my job to put our engineering team and our technology team as a whole in position to effectively deliver for the business. And when crunch time happens, I think the first thing is you always just think customer first, right? So good example is production incident. That is a drop everything you're doing, doesn't matter, go fix the problem. Sometimes if it's a downtime type incident, of course, that's all hands on deck, fix it, get it running. It often doesn't end there, right? There's often follow-ups and other things you have to fix and understand. And, I think everything else takes a back seat when that happens, and you have to focus on stability and reliability of your products. We always want to deliver new features, new functionality, and grow our business and deliver more value for our customers. But, I don't think I've ever met a customer that didn't say, hey, the first priority is the stuff that you've already given me, make sure it works. It's solid, it's reliable, it does what it says it should do. So I think that's first and foremost. You just think of the customer, think of what they're using our products on a daily basis to do. And then it comes down to, oftentimes deciding, and this is why, oftentimes we go through quarterly planning and we prioritize. It's because, you may plan for a quarter, but you're probably not going to get everything done. You want to get things done in the order that is most important first, and then you always have to make those decisions and have those discussions over, do we do this? Do we do that? Do we trade this off? And it's always not easy, because there may be some things that are quick and easy that may be lesser priority, but you can get them done quick. There may be some other things that are higher priority, but they're more complex, they're harder, and it's always a discussion.
Speaking of those trade-offs, so what happens when you have, maybe multiple new releases on deck, and you've got, mutual developers and resources that are keyed into more than one of them, and it's clear the team is, feeling spread too thin. who makes the decisions on where to focus those energies? Who's stepping in to say, okay, is it you? Is it, speaking to the team leaders?
Yeah, I think it is a shared decision, and I think there has to be alignment with the business. Our customer facing teams, our product team, all those decisions. There just has to be alignment. It's not, I don't have the only say, and quite honestly, when those things happen, it's my job to bring the right information to the table, and say, hey, here's the situation, here's what we could do, here are the options. But it's also my job to have a recommendation and to have a strong opinion. I'm in the role I'm in for a reason, because I've been through many of these experiences, while we want to make a group decision, it's also I may have the most information of the group to be able to make the right decision. So bring some level of influence, and then we talk it through and decide what we want to do there.
And as you're looking to kind of balance out how the teams are working and resolving things, right now, are you looking at AI coding as a way to kind of help with some of that workload or heavy lifting, or are there particular ways you feel more comfortable where AI can come into place with your teams?
Yeah, I think, I look at this holistically. Of course, the world has changed. The technology world has changed quite dramatically in the last 2 to 3 years with the advent of generative AI. And I think as a CTO, I wouldn't be doing my job if I weren't considering what are all the tools and technologies available to us in order to accelerate what we do. And being the leader of our engineering team, I say, one of my most important jobs, and those, the leaders that work directly for me, we have, as a software company, one of our most precious assets are our developers. And maximizing the time out of our developers and maximizing that productivity, because it really is the fixed asset. There's only X number of hours per week per engineer, and the more that we can squeeze out of that time that we have, the more we can deliver value for our customers. And if leveraging AI coding, and we certainly are leveraging AI coding, and really AI products as a whole, not just coding tools, but other ways in which we can be productive. That's something that we absolutely have to do. Of course, putting my information security hat on, we have to do that in a safe way for Emburse, and for any company has to, and for our customers. We have to make sure that the data privacy, data security, reliability of our information security is foremost as well there. So that is a trade-off. But certainly, AI coding tools, our team is leveraging them extensively. It's helping to accelerate, and like any new technology, it's taken some time to adapt. It is not autonomous. Really, AI coding tools are an assistant. They're like, if you're into sort of extreme programming and pair programming, it's like having a pair programmer with you. And actually, the role of a developer changes a little bit. You change into being more of a code reviewer. So you prompt the AI, it maybe generates some code, you review it, you tweak it, you say, can you do this instead? And you become more of a prompter and orchestrator of the AI tools. It's changed the role of a developer quite substantially, but it has accelerated development. There are places like greenfield development where it is much more effective because it's easy. There's no code written. It can go really, really fast. Brownfield or existing coding environments, a little bit harder to retrofit in there because it takes a bit more to kind of learn. And if I flip this over now for, not only what I'm using it to be more effective, but, our customers, we're embedding AI into our products as well, because our customers are also looking to their vendors like us, like Emburse, to deliver more value for them, help them accelerate what they do. And so we look at it both ways. As a CTO, we have to be leveraging this technology to do our jobs better, faster, more effective. But we also have to enable our customers to be able to leverage AI embedded into our products to help them in much the same way as well.
And as CTO, which stakeholders amongst the executive leadership do you need to coordinate with in order to kind of really maintain cohesive development cycles and workflows, particularly when the organization tries to meet multiple deadlines?
Yeah, it's really across the board, but I'll call a couple of them out in particular. Certainly, my chief product officers, we're attached at the hip. You can't have one without the other. We have to be well aligned, just like product and engineering teams have to be well aligned. The chief product officer, chief technology officer really have to be on the same page and fully aligned. So, of our executive team, chief product officer is the one I work most closely with. Our CRO, our chief revenue officer, of course, the products that we're building. There's a plan. We need to make sure we're aligned with the business plan. If we're delivering a product by Q1 or Q2, and there's a bookings plan that's assumes that these products get delivered at the right time. There has to be good lockstep there, and then I'll also call out our CFO, because at the end of the day, we need the right level of staffing and the right level of investment to make sure not only we can staff these products, build these products, but when we bring them to production, we have the proper budgets in place to be able to operate that as well. So again, it goes across the board. And of course, our CEO over everything, but those are the ones I would call out, and those are the ones that I think have the most close alignment with in order to make sure we're delivering for the business.
Awesome. Thank you for those thoughts. All right, Larissa, let's talk about the operations and business side of things. So, how do you go about ensuring that your needs and the scheduled delivery are part of the discussion when the tech teams are maybe already under a certain amount of pressure with their goals?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I wrote down something that Ken said right at the start in his first question, and that was the team effort. I think that's really the most important part, that you have shared goals as a business, not competing ones. We try to align on roadmaps as early as possible to make sure we can put everything in a logical order. But reality is, we are a 1.5-year-old startup. Every single day and every hour of every day is crunch time, realistically. And you plan, you're trying to be ready for what's ahead, but you need to pivot. And especially in this hyper growth era that we're in, plus the AI world that we're in, all of this is crazy fast, like we've never seen it before. You need to pivot all the time. But what we try to do with our teams is, at the very high level, at an executive level, we try to measure everyone by the exact same outcome. But because ultimately, and going back to Ken's points as well, it's like we serve our customers, and we need to make sure that we are prioritizing their priorities, not always their deadlines specifically. We really try to show the impact, and therefore prioritize them by deadlines as much as possible. And then we translate those priorities down to every single person in the company with something that is a lot more clear and more doable. We always aim high. I think startup world, that is kind of a given, but we try to stay realistic and something that is doable, to that every person on the team, whichever department, business, tech, or anything else they're on, they are working towards something that is shared, and that really helps us be very agile and pushing through.
Gotcha. So, what other inputs, maybe even external inputs, do you look to? Customer sentiment, market trends, rival companies, to kind of further map out what your organization should be prioritizing.
Yeah, 100% customer pain points, like everything else as well, but that is ultimately what drives all of us, right? And that can be internal and external customers. Obviously, most of the cases, like external comes first, but a lot of roles, depending where you are within the organization, has internal customers as well. So I think that is a big focus point. We try to see kind of in the market at any given time. I mean, it's hard to navigate the AI market right now because so much is happening. So many trends are popping up right now. So I don't envy anyone who's trying to navigate that to the fullest. But that really helps fill in the gaps. Ultimately, as a company ourselves, what we were providing as an AI platform that basically brings to life AI use cases for customers, and we need to live by what we sell. And that is all around really fast delivery of business value, fast rollout, and the faster you roll something out, the faster you have impact. And really, the customer should be like your true north in that regard.
So, how do you resolve points of friction if they come up within the organization during crunch time? For example, if the security team says, the fast pace of the development cycle needs to slow down to allow for more thorough vetting and cybersecurity reviews, how do you kind of really find a way to kind of not just meet in the middle, but find that reasonable place for all elements of the organization to yes, you're all under pressure, but we all need to work together as smoothly as possible to make this happen.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting question because obviously no one wants friction, right? We spend so many hours in a day and of our lives really in the workplace. So we want it to be as smooth as possible. But reality is with a lot of like very passionate, dynamic, hardworking people that signed up to join a startup, there is friction. I don't necessarily think that friction is something super negative. It's not clearly not like an immediate point of failure. I would say it's more of a signal. The signal can be interpreted in all kinds of different directions, but I would say it's important to reset the priorities, see where to focus, how to avoid many of the crunch time pain points, if you will, and not have like blame embedded in the DNA of those types of conversations. So we do a lot of these things. Actually, I would say we learn from our customers in that regard as well, because it really briefly touched upon our platform that we sell as a vendor to enterprises is really taking standardized components and putting them into turnkey AI solutions. And what that basically means is like I work with Fortune 500 companies every single day, and they have tons of different AI use cases across departments, across all kinds of industries. And while you would say probably that a company in banking and real estate and manufacturing and logistics probably has all kinds of different problems, ultimately they are pretty similar. They have the same kind of pain points that technologies can um, like really solve with. And so we basically try to take those learnings every single day and take what's good out of all of them and reuse that many times over. And yeah, as I said, like what we are giving to our customers, we always try to embed it internally as well.
And what happens if there's such a time where you have to put other projects potentially on the back burner during crunch time to focus on what needs to be delivered more immediately? Are there ways to revisit those other projects later, ways that are still meaningful to the organization, or is there potential for the situation to kind of like just kind of get a certain momentum where you're working on what's new and now, where what you put on the back burner, you can look back and be like, oh, do we do we need to even look back to that? We've already moved forward in this direction with these latest projects.
I mean, look, you can, right? I'm not saying you cannot. Obviously, we keep like a log with all of our projects that we want to revisit. Things change, as I said, it's very dynamic. But probably unpopular opinion, but in sales, I guess there's the saying like time kills all deals. And as I was thinking through this, it's like, I think the same applies for internal projects as well, Like if there is really this business need and a pain point that needs to be fixed, then I think there should be that momentum and try to get some very quick wins as soon as possible, right? Because if it's going to be put on hold, the people working on the projects are probably pretty frustrated that there's constant like stop and go in that regard. And I would say try to identify what is the most important things that moves the needle for your business. And if possible, try to get some wins there as soon as possible. And everything else probably is not as necessary. It's just a matter of putting the order right and then go for it. I think it motivates the team immensely if some of their biggest pain points are finally solved and they can move on to something else. But yeah, nothing should disappear. Just there is a good chance that it does if it's too far down the list reality. Something new comes up every single day, in my opinion.
Gotcha. All right. Very wise words. Great thoughts. Okay. It's my favorite time. The Ninja Turtles game screen is out. Now it's time for questionable ideas are us, the tabletop scenario where I guess we part of a fictional company where the tabletop exercises will unfold. This is a time where our podcast guests are going to be asked to tackle some outrageous scenarios, somewhat outrageous scenarios, inspired by real world IT strategy challenges. So let's see how the two of you navigate the chaos this time around. Once again, these tabletop scenarios, we're not shared in advance to our guests. While they are intentionally over the top in some ways, they do speak to today's topic. And a reminder to the panelists and to those who are listening and watching, the panelists are not responsible for the hobgoblins and kobolds who appear in the scenarios, because that's what makes it fun for me. Okay, so scenario one. Now remember, the two of you are in your roles, your respective roles, with the same kinds of responsibilities, but as interim CEOs, COOs, and CTOs for Questionable Ideas or Us, which has a history of getting into shenanigans. So here we go. All right, scenario one. The development teams at Questionable Ideas or Us are clocking overtime to deliver on new apps and software release. There does not seem to be a way around such commitment to make the delivery dates. Now, while the new apps show great promise, it has meant leaving other apps and software on standby without updates. The security team is concerned that this could lead to exposure of vulnerabilities that bad actors may soon exploit. The board of directors believes the new apps will shape the next chapter of the company if you can deliver on time. How do you address not only the current delivery demands, but also plan to avoid such crunch time crises in the future?
All right, I'm happy to take the lead on this one, Larissa. At
Sounds
least
good.
first here. Yeah, so this certainly. I'll start with having established SLAs for vulnerabilities. I mean, certainly as a software company, you never want to get caught by surprise, but there's always 0-day vulnerabilities that come up, and you need to be able to pivot and react to those. And similar to what we talked about earlier, you always have to have a customer first mindset. And well, it may seem like, hey, let's these apps are going to lead to a bunch of new revenue, et cetera, et cetera. You also have to look at the risk side of that and say, yes, but should there be a breach? That is that is sort of an impact that you feel much, much more broadly and significantly than maybe a delayed new application release. So, in much what we talked about earlier, having a customer first mindset, but look at those vulnerabilities first. But they all don't come in they're not all the same size and the same impact. I think you need to, without going into too much detail, all vulnerabilities are rated on a CVSS score. There's critical, there's high, there's medium, there's low. I think you have to look at those. You don't have to fix all of them right away. It also depends on exploitability and impact. So I think you need to come up with a balance. The board and management and others are always going to want to push for new. And quite honestly, as a CTO, I look at my role as being able to push back. As we said earlier, like, I don't have the ultimate decision. I don't have, I'm not an authoritarian, but it's my job to give the information to the business and provide that. And that's what I would do in this scenario, is provide them all the information, give them, because these vulnerabilities, they're often hard to figure out. Like, oh, what does that actually mean? Like, okay, it's a 9.6, like, root shell access. Like, okay, what does it mean? What is the impact? How possible is it? How exploitable is it? So my job is to give the information and lean on that customer first side.
I think I would add to that from like a business side. As you said, obviously everyone will always push. We all know our board members and so on. Like, we always want better, but reality is like, a lot of it can probably also be fixed with communications, because the tech team, that the security team actually know the impact that these new offerings would have on the business. Everyone wants to do well in their role. Everyone wants to see their business succeed. And if there can be like full transparency around those, there's always the extra mile that people will go and will make happen if they feel like they're working towards like a shared goal and like really advancing the business in that regard.
All right, on to scenario two. The hashtag hobgoblins have seen the teams working hard and have an idea to alleviate some of the heavy lifting that the teams currently shoulder. Turn over half the workload to citizen developers within the organization who will vibe code with AI and finish development much faster. This would also let the marketing department inject some harmless tracking tweaks for capturing data about users of the apps. The security team, backed by the kobolds, is already screaming down the hall, "Don't you dare." To which the hobgoblins point to their t-shirts that all say, "Trust the vibe code, bro." For the sake of saving staff time, is it possible to lean heavily on AI coding in its current form for the development of sophisticated apps and software that must run flawlessly and reliably?
Honestly, this gives me a headache just thinking about it. I mean, look,
That's the
I love
idea.
I love everything about like trying new technologies, right? Like I think if you're in the space and all of the roles you just mentioned, you should get your hands onto all of the new possibilities that are out there. But just thinking like alleviating half of the workload, did they even think about the maintenance of all of this after the fact, right? Like having 100 or 1,000 of rogue AI agents trying to solve the business. I don't know. It's making me very nervous. I'm curious about the security aspect that you're seeing there, and I don't know, kind of have you had this in your business? Like, has this appeared?
It, no one has come to me and asked if we can offload some of the software development outside of the engineering team. But
Just
a
trust the
really
vibe
bad
code,
idea.
bro. Just trust the vibe code.
Really bad idea. Vibe coding has its place. In terms of prototyping and that has made a significant impact and a difference and allowed some of our non-engineering teams to put some things together rather quickly. But it's not production code. It's not. It's not going to stand up to performance, to scale, to security, to a number of different things. Certainly bad idea. Vibe coding has its place, and the citizen coders will take their help in other areas for sure.
I mean, especially if you're looking at like enterprise setups, right? Tech stack, in-house built tools, super complex global organizations. The reality of where we are with AI right now is honestly still pretty removed. And if we always say if all you need is like to vibe code a to-do list for your own personal productivity, go for it. Like instead of that post-it or kind of a running list on your desktop, do it. But if you're really trying to organize the internal or external operations of a large corporation, probably stay quite a bit away from it.
Yeah, and to your point, Larissa, about enterprise software, if we were at a place where AI assisted coding, you accepted a large majority of the code and just move forward, it's not where it is at the moment. I mean, certainly there's some major advancements, and a year from now we may be saying something very different.
Of course.
But some percent of the code, I don't know, maybe it's 50%, 60%, whatever it is refactored in some way by a developer that's sort of riding shotgun or co-pilot with it. So no one in marketing or another department's gonna be able to provide that kind of oversight overall.
And realistically, neither should they, because they were hired for a
No,
job that they're probably really good
correct.
at, and the business would benefit a lot more if they actually did that job, in my opinion.
Well, the security team and the kobolds are breathing a bit easier. Meanwhile, the hobgoblins are looking disappointed and promising they could have fixed things in post eventually, maybe, if they can remember. Okay, on to the last and the third scenario. All right. So the company has managed to pull off a delivery of its new apps and software on time, and the workflow is starting to return to a normal cadence. As the board congratulates your leadership, the collective leadership of everyone, you hear a rumor that one of the teams that worked the most cohesively and reacted fast during crunch time is considering leaving to form an independent development studio. They realized how well they worked as a unit during the crisis and want to break out on their own with the hopes of changing their work-life balance. The board does not want to lose such a rock star team right after an internal win. How would you approach the team that's considering spinning themselves out? And what would you share with the board in response?
Interesting one. I mean, obviously, no company ever wants to lose really well performing individuals. But on the other hand, is it really the right thing to hold someone back from starting something on their own? I would almost see this like a little bit biased. And again, probably not a very popular opinion if you are in the board level or executive level thing. But if someone really wants to build something because they believe in their idea, I would almost say try it. We're here. Doors are open. If you change your mind, if you want to come back, don't stop them. But I would give them that advice that I guess I've been going through for the last couple of years here. Don't do it for work-life balance, because starting something on your own definitely does not help with the work-life balance aspect here.
Yeah, I think if I understood the scenario here, they don't like the work-life balance, and maybe it was intense through this event. Certainly, I would have an open discussion with them and understand, like, hey, okay, it was this during the event. Of course, that's not going to be every day. That's not going to be persistent. Let's talk about and bridge the gap. And I would try to obviously work with the team. We want to keep that team. It's a high performing team. They pulled us out of a tough situation. And certainly it's going to be, it's much more expensive to replace a team than to retain a team. They're already with you. And so I always look at people development that way, like start with retention and then go to recruiting. Because you're going to bring in new people. It's going to take them longer. It's going to cost you money to recruit. We all know sort of the difficulties and the challenges, and how costly it is to recruit. So do everything we can to retain that team, but really try to understand why they want to leave. It sounds like it's work-life balance. Let's see if we can strike a fair balance with them. If anything else, buy yourself some time and say, hey, let's prove it to you, and, give us a little bit of time. And then maybe also, Larissa, you're living this. I've been in 4 startups in the early part of my career. It's not the place to go if you want work-life balance. And so I would have a conversation with them about what the realities of starting your own company are, and the demands that brings on your work-life balance as well.
Gotcha.
Absolutely.
And any thoughts that you want to throw to the board in terms of when this particular team, but there might be others in the future that start getting that itch to run off? Are there any thoughts in terms of guidance that they could do to maybe find additional ways to help nurture them within the organization, to say, hey, you've got ideas, but you want to try things that the board could do, or at least consider doing, to try and keep these kinds of high performing people as a team within the organization, maybe continuing their new ideas within the organization?
I've actually seen that in past roles where I was part of it, where basically people that were very well respected wanted to leave for something on their own, and we basically incubated their ideas internally, or at the very least struck a partnership with them. So in this example now, well, you could sign up for their services. Like, they could come back and provide services just in a different model for you. I think overall there's quite a lot of good ideas out there that are starting to become more common in that regard. But you should probably also keep on working on the internal dialogue of making sure that everyone else who has not left yet and hopefully won't leave, that their ideas being heard. Internal hackathons, open forum conversations, and really getting that feedback, I think will go a long way if there's action behind it and not just talk.
Yeah, and it's a good point. Like, if they truly have new ideas and potentially new products that are very relevant to the company they're in, you want to retain these people. Like, a win-win, and I would go to the board and ask them this, instead of, oftentimes as retention bonuses, hey, stay for X amount of time. I would say, hey, let's incent them. Like, hey, if you build this product, you deliver it by this time, if we get this many customers, make it an incentive bonus. So they're incented to work really, really hard. but there's also, a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow if they actually deliver. So it's a win-win for everyone. If they get to stay in the company, they potentially get a bonus for working on the thing that they want. Like, there's ways to structure it, and I think, with the support of the board to do that.
Okay. Well, definitely great insights for both of you. And you've once again, my guests have helped Questionable Ideas or Us survive through to the next bit of shenanigans that I come up with for the next episode. So listen, Larissa, Ken, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I appreciate your time, your input, your insights, and your perspective on these topics. Thank you so much.
Great
Thank
conversation.
you.
Thanks for having us.